Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello, and welcome to, this has to be the last day of April, right? I've been trying to get to the last day of April for a long time. And it's a Tuesday, which means Susan's joining us from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Hello, Susan.
Yeah, Gray and, I was here when Trump was here.
I know. And,
I was having problems. I was feeling I should do something patriotic, but
like
I
go
didn't.
and protest. Did anybody protest him, do you know? There?
Oh, yeah, there were plenty of people. There were plenty of people that were standing there protesting. There was a whole other rally in a different part of town, which is what the Democratic Party asked people to do, not to pay any attention to them, but to have their own rally at a different time of the day. I think they did that to be nice to the police, but that sort of loses its effectiveness,
Yeah. Dang. Well, he's gone now.
And you can't. And he's gone now. But you just. It is disheartening to see that there's just so many people that are looking at what we're looking at and seeing a totally different picture.
Yeah.
It's just hard to understand.
Yeah. Esquire did a piece, and they were not alone in mentioning one of the of all the horrific things and lies he told to that adoring crowd in Green Bay. And in fact, the Washington Post, which has been cataloging every lie of his presidency, said that it was in Green Bay at that event that he reached the 10,000 lies of his presidency. So he told the 10,000th lie. These are public lies. God knows how many there really are. But then he went into this. The baby is born. The mother meets with the doctor. They take care of the baby. They wrap the baby beautifully. And then the doctor and the mother determine whether or not they will execute the baby. He said that in Green Bay.
Yeah, he said that. And people, I guess, believe that.
And they do believe it. It is an absolute, as
atrocious lie.
As Esquire points out, they call it, this is unmitigated bullshit. And it's going to get someone killed because we know the anti-choice movement, we won't call them pro-life, has already piled up an impressive body count. But then Esquire turns on the New York Times. But this is Charlie Pierce in Esquire, what I did not expect was that the New York Times would take this opportunity to assault the English language, which is, they said, right after they quoted him about killing swaddled babies, he executing them. The New York Times wrote, President Trump revived on Saturday night what is fast becoming a standard and inaccurate refrain about doctors executing babies. And then he goes ballistic about the Times calling that a standard and inaccurate refrain.
Right.
And
tra-la.
He says, an inaccurate refrain? Are they serious?
Yeah, and a bald-faced lie that incites people to murder is not an inaccurate refrain. I agree totally.
Right.
But this is the same New York Times that's running a cartoon of,
anti-Semitic cartoons.
Right.
Keep your eye on the Times because I'm getting close to canceling my subscription. Charles Pierce in Esquire goes on to say the president's bloodthirsty mendacity, that's a little better than inaccurate refrain, bloodthirsty mendacity reminds me of the lies and slanders aimed at hospice workers when they were tending to Terry Schiavo. Remember that wonderful moment in American history. The hospice got regular bomb threats, and so did the elementary school up the road. But seriously, New York Times, an inaccurate refrain? He says, I feel sick. Good thing, as John Fogerty warned us, there's a bathroom on the right. There's a bathroom on the right. Where am I? I'm seeing a lot of that, where people are quoting, are doing, the misheard quotes from songs in their writing, and it's funny. There's a bathroom on the right. I'm going to.
Well, I think it's partly that people are depressing themselves and are so angry and miserable about what they're being forced to write that they're actually including the little jokes they tell themselves to allow themselves to go on in their writing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's exactly what that sounds like to me, because that's what happens to me as I talk or write. I'm always firing off my own little private one-liners. I'm sure that you're all surprised to hear that. And they're chiefly for my amusement, but every once in a while one creeps into whatever it is I'm writing, and that sounds exactly like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I don't know. The news today so far, I told myself today that I am not going to follow with day to day this push and pull with the executive branch and the legislative branch, because this is going to go on for months and months through a million different court cases. Trump now suing Deutsche Bank and Capital One to keep them from following through with their intent to deliver his financial records to because of subpoenas they've received from congressional committees. He has no standing. There is no way he wins that, but you just keep slowing this process down, and it's going to be just constant stonewalling by the executive branch, including Barr, the Attorney General, apparently unwilling to now submit himself to questions.
Well, it's just gonna get him impeached.
Well, I don't know.
It's going to move people that are being, saying, let's wait and find out, let's do our own business, and they'll just go, no, okay, we'll play it your way, you're impeached.
Well,
I don't think it's a smart thing to do. I mean, because it's gonna blow up timely in their faces, or untimely for them.
in terms of when the election will be. Yeah.
In terms of elections, in terms of the way it'll play, if they aren't hiding anything. Mm-hmm. When they kept coming after Hillary kept showing up and answering their questions. She didn't hide. She didn't obfuscate. She just said, okay, ask me again. And what do? They hide. They obfuscate. They do everything they need to do to say, I'm still hiding because you still haven't found the biggest thing.
They do hide. They're cowards. They're bullies and cowards, which go together.
They're just bullies and cowards.
They hide behind their attorneys' skirts. Would that they
or their judges in this case.
Yeah, right. So this is just going to be a really long slog, and as will be the Democratic Party's efforts to find their standard bearer this year. And I really hope people pace themselves here. Really, really.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, if you haven't learned yet, there's never, pace yourself.
We're well over a year away. We're a year and a half away from being able to go to the polls. You gotta pace yourself. Any marathon runner knows that. And we're in a humongous marathon here.
Except for all those guys that win who actually can seem to sprint for 24 miles.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Those people are unbelievable. Some guy won what would I see, the London Marathon the other day, second fastest marathon time in history. I mean, jeez. Some woman did that Saharan, desert thing that goes forever. You're running in the same. She did it with one prosthetic leg. How do people do this stuff? What is?
Well, she couldn't get a cramp in that one.
Yeah, well, she did get her prosthetic leg, though, stuck at one point. It got stuck in a crevice in a.
Well, just the constant pounding on where it attaches.
Well, exactly right. And when she was finished,
it's impossible to even think about.
Right.
Yeah.
And when she was finished, that's where immediately they took her leg off and tried to help out the part of the leg, right, that fits in. Oh my God. So there are people who have such, sort of inner grit and a need to challenge themselves physically, which is something that I don't have one scintilla of, not a one. So it must be a personality thing. I don't know.
Well,
right?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And it just shows that whoever she was before she didn't have this leg, or maybe she always, I don't know her case. Right. It didn't stop her from being exactly who she was.
Exactly
that you define yourself by what you have. You don't, to be successful, you define yourself by what you have, not by what you don't have. And all of us have and don't have.
God knows. We spend an inordinate amount of time, though, probably wishing for the things we don't have when.
Yeah, like that gives you anything perfect.
Right. And meanwhile, other people are desperately wanting something that you have. Right. I mean, it's just, we're something else.
Right. I'm sure that there are people, I know there are people that I've looked at me throughout my whole life with just, boy, if I could just be her, life would be easy. And in many, 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 many ways, they would have been absolutely correct, especially at different snapshots in my life. But, they got to take the whole thing, don't they?
Yeah. No. I mean, some people.
And so that's just like anybody else. Every time you think that grass is greener, man.
Think again.
I think they actually did a study on this where they they put everybody, had their choice of, after, talking to a group of people and admitting, all of the things that they hated and wanted to change, whether they'd switch with anybody else and walk out of the room with their problems, and everybody usually goes home with their own familiar problems.
Yeah, right. Right. Let's talk about those. Sometimes people's problems don't stay with themselves, and they spread their problems around. And I want to just note that we've set now a 21st century record in the number of measles cases in this country. And we're not alone there. They're setting records all over Europe and Asia as well. So the measles outbreak continues apace. It's now found measles in 22 states. Happily, Susan, not in Wisconsin where you are, and not in Pennsylvania where I am, but give it a day or two. And I just want to thank the idiots, the anti-vaxxers, who through their stupidity have resurrected a disease that was really pretty much eradicated in this country.
I was listening to and probably NPR yesterday morning, and they had a sociologist on from some university who was quite rationally discussing the in her effort to make us understand that we couldn't just revile anti-vaxxers the way we're reviling everybody else. We need to understand where they're coming from and where their fears are located. and that they are not all unreasonable. And the minute she said that, I said, no, okay, I'm not listening to you. Because, yes, they are unreasonable. And, yes, you do have a duty to take an infinitesimal amount of risk for the benefit of your community.
Right.
Well, because you might have the next kid that can't take the DP, the whooping cough virus because they have an intense reaction to the virus like one of my kids did. And believe me, that kid needed to rely on the herd to keep that kid safe.
Right. So, no, it is a selfishness, which is, and there's a pretty big outbreak right now in New York. The epicenter of that is among the real tight-knit.
Okay, so here's what's scary about that.
What?
About the Orthodox
Jewish
community.
community, right.
Yeah, there was an interview with an Orthodox Jewish doctor who's in the I think the NYU system, and she was talking about how that came about. Because it's certainly not anything religious, and in fact, the rabbis, for the most part, are saying
vaccinate.
Vaccinate.
Right,
vaccinate.
they are.
But what has happened to that community, and this is what I want people to think about a little bit, is they have been flooded from somewhere with anti-vax literature. It is with books that they didn't order, with pamphlets on their doors. I mean, they have been targeted. And it worked. So then I have to ask, is this someone just trying to kill Jews?
Nah.
Well, what's the point? Who benefits?
There's easier ways to kill Jews than having them
but there are. But I want to know who benefits. When you you got to look for a motive. It's usually follow the money. This doesn't have anything to do with money. Well, it has to have something to do with who do you want to get rid of?
Yeah, but the measles virus is extraordinarily communicable, easily can be from one person to another. It doesn't know from religion. I mean, so
no, but if it hits a religious community that then gets quarantined, or maybe that's not, or maybe that's a red herring. Maybe this is yet another one of those Russian things, with disinformation campaigns, and they're just trying to kill Americans.
You see what happens, though? You sound like
I'm making
conspiracy theorist, and I mean, come on, it's just listen. Here's what.
Who sent the pamphlets? I want to know.
Okay, some states have high vaccination rates, but also pockets of unvaccinated people, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Some close-knit religious communities, like the Amish and Orthodox Jews in New York, have had low vaccination rates. The same is to be said for wealthy, liberal communities on the West Coast, especially. They have low vaccination rates.
That's just asshole entitlement. Excuse me.
Well, right. Oh, not my child can't. But
not my child. You little peons take the risk and protect my kid, while I'm busy paying $500,000 to put them in school.
So, all I want to say is this: measles is highly infectious. It's a virus. It's more contagious than Ebola or tuberculosis, and it is still globally a big killer of children. Okay?
Yeah, measles, most people can get measles and just be fine, but then there's that percentage that don't get measles, and they die.
Yeah, that's right.
Ask Raoul Dow.
Did he is that what he died of?
His daughter, his 12-year-old daughter.
Died of measles.
She died of a brain infection secondary.
Well, that's
to the
what
measles.
happens. I mean, what happens is
measles
can create a swelling of
the
brain.
It morphs into things.
And yeah, you die. Outbreaks of the disease are all over England. Those aren't Jews. Leeds, Liverpool, Birmingham, Surrey, Manchester is the epicenter. In that city alone, 47 cases of measles since January. Brazil is got a huge epidemic of measles going on. Well over 10,000 known cases at the moment. We're still in the hundreds.
Do you remember when we were kids and polio
Yes.
was
Yes,
rampant?
Of course.
And we would be lined up in our elementary schools in the gym for mass vaccinations.
Right.
You didn't even get to go to the doctor. You just go through. Sometimes you were lucky and it was a pill. Other times they came at you with a needle, and you got to and you and it was actually a really good way to do it because the kids didn't want to scream and cry in front of the other kids. So you just stood there and you did it. And can you imagine what would have happened if some mother came in and said, "Not my little kid"?
I don't think back then anyone would have ever said that.
No, because people were ending up in iron lungs or dead. And if they were in your neighbors, I remember getting pulled out of a neighborhood house by our terrified mother with her screaming, "There's polio in there."
Well, I remember I can't remember whose party it was. I was at a birthday party, and then someone who was at the party, contract polio, and I had to have these gamma globulin, that's what, shots. And speaking of needles, I remember the needles.
I remember the size of those needles.
Yeah, it was this big. It looked like a saber or something. But yeah, we were living in fear then. There was no
They
doubt
look like,
that.
you know what they look like? And it's why I could never make myself use one. They look like one of those meat infusers.
Well, they look like a cartoon hypodermic needle, right?
Right.
Big,
it's as big as a basting tool in the shaft of the thing, and the needle is like in proportion.
Yeah.
Anyway,
God. So it says
I
here.
guess it was a pretty vivid memory.
Yeah. So this anti-vaxxing thing is global, and it's spread by, of course, social media platforms, and it's full of just total crap, and so we're being pulled back into.
But even just with the historical empirical knowledge, I don't understand how this happened, because we're looking at a generation of people our age who successfully, because of our vaccinations and inoculations, managed to eradicate all of these diseases. And here we are, the largest population of Americans ever, coming through, and we did just fine. So what do our grandchildren get out of this knowledge? That it's dangerous? I mean, why weren't we rampant with autism?
Good question. It
makes no empirical sense. You don't even have to. It makes no sense.
Well, but that's why it's spreading like wildfire in these times. When in these times, making no sense seems to be a good way to.
It must be true.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, people.
If it
respond.
sounds like a flat out lie, it must be true.
It must be true. So, still on the health front, and I just want to get this in. I've always said there's no place you want to be less than a hospital, and that's not just because you don't want to be sick. It's because I see hospitals as you
don't want to get sick.
I don't want to get sick, or I don't want to be killed, or I'm serious because I've had enough troubles in hospitals. I don't trust them. I think they're filthy.
And she's not even exaggerating.
No, they're filthy. They're not kept clean like they used to be back in the day. They're understaffed. There are not enough nurses. They're distracted, overworked people taking care of you. It's a frightening place, and it's replete with all kinds of deadly bacteria and viruses. And there is a study, a recent study. They studied patients at 10 academic hospitals in the United States. And what they found, it wasn't just patients, it was doctors as well, found that those doctors' white coats, doctors' white coats are contaminated with all kinds of harmful, sometimes drug-resistant bacteria. Of the doctors' lab coats that they asked to have to study, 16% of them had the MRSA bacteria on them. Up to 42% had a class of bacteria called gram-negative rods, which create all kinds of really bad illnesses you don't want, bloodstream infections, sepsis, pneumonia, all of that. And it wasn't just their white coats, it was the stethoscopes, their phones, their tablets. Listen to this. Here's where you get cause and effect. One study of just orthopedic surgeons showed a 45% match between the species of bacteria found on the surgeon's ties and in the wounds of patients they had treated. So this is a doctor, not in surgery, coming around to see you afterwards. He's wearing his white lab coat and his tie, and he leans over, and his tie sort of, touches you a little bit. And bango, you now have a potentially really frightening bacteria or virus disease. Nurses' uniforms have also been found to be highly contaminated. Studies, when you ask doctors, how often do you wash that white coat you're wearing? You don't want to know. Most go more than a week before washing their coat, so they'll wear it for a full week. 17% go more than a month. Some have never washed it at all. The study shows that they need to be washed every single day, and also that they shouldn't be long-sleeved. The doctor should have bare arms from the elbow down, but doctors don't want to do it. Isn't that something? The white coat gives them some kind of, sense of status or something. But anyway, I'm just telling you that. I read that and I thought, oh my God. This is where knowledge just scares the hell out of you. You don't want to be, I look at doctors now as like, purveyors of death. I really do. They scare the hell out of me.
Well, you hope you got one that actually looks at you and can see you.
Yeah.
And, and treats you as the individual you are. Because if they can't and they don't, you're in deep doo-doo. Yeah. And that's the majority of them.
And you know what else?
They're just humans like all the rest of us, and they get bored too.
And, and they get stressed, and they get whatever. I have to tell you that, I'm in a hospital at least once a month because I have to get an injection every month that it can only be done at the hospital. And I'm in a room full of people getting infusions and stuff. And lots of, and every time I'm there, I'm thinking, please, 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 let me get in, let me get out. It absolutely terrifies me to be in a hospital. It terrifies me. And I know I'll end up there before it's over. But that hospital has tons of those, every door outside in the hallway has one of those dispensers for, the alcohol-based hand sanitizers. So, I'm going down the hall and pushing it every 2 seconds and rubbing that stuff all over me. And I also read in this article that, get this, when hospitals started putting those sanitizers in rooms, in patient rooms, so that nurses and doctors would use them before they touched a patient, guess what happened? The fire department came in and said, oh, no. You cannot have something that contains 60% alcohol, meaning that those little containers are highly flammable. You cannot have them within so many feet of this or that. And so they had to be moved out and away from patients, because if, God forbid, there were a fire, they would like explode. So fire codes now limit where these things can be placed or how many of them can be on one site. Does that make you scared? I don't know. I give up. The world is way too complicated for me. Way too complicated. Obituary of the day, I do want to note the untimely passing of director John. And this movie, if you've never seen it, is so worth seeing. It made it to Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival. Roger Ebert saw it there and went ballistic. He says, I have not seen a brilliant directorial debut like this before. This is an American film of enormous importance. So now, with the untimely passing of John Singleton, of a massive stroke at the age of 51, if you've never seen Boys in the Hood,
thank you for
starring, by
calling
the way,
Cullen Studios
Cuba
host
Gooding
and call
Jr.
screener line.
and Ice Cube.
Enter your 6-digit PIN
And these
number.
are guys, I mean, he was 22 years old. He had just gotten out of film school.
Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Collins
He
Studio
didn't
web
win the Academy
interface.
Award for Best Directing. He lost to the director of Silence of the Lambs, John Demme. And he was also nominated for Best Original Screenplay. This 22-year-old kid, Best Screenplay, but he lost that, too, to the person who wrote Thelma and Louise. What a year for movies. Man. Anyway, just wanted you to know. And the saddest thing in this obit is he is survived by his parents. And his children. If you've never seen Boys in the Hood, it is an extraordinarily good and moving film.
Well, that's how I came on the conspiracy thing. I was watching a tribute to him, and there was the scene where Samuel Jackson's standing on the corner and going,
right.
Someone's decrying the gun. Why is there someone shot on every corner? And he said the same reason there's a liquor store on every corner. They want us to kill ourselves.
And the same reason there's more cigarettes sold in, black neighborhoods and fewer groceries and stuff. I mean, you can see why, the black community would think, hey, they're targeting us. And I think that's a lot more, makes a lot more sense than people trying to take out Orthodox Jews with pamphlets on their doorsteps.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out who's behind targeting that community and why.
Who knows? Somebody might have thought they were saving the community. Who the hell knows? I mean, there's so much false information out there, and so many of us fall for it. I include all of us because...
Yeah, just in case you think that you believe the stereotype that we're all smarter than everybody else, here's proof.
Okay. Oh, hey, Amy, I know we're having some audio nonsense going on, and Milton's telling me that the audience is hearing the call-in line voice prompts, which is, the weird thing that happened the other day, too. We'll try to figure,
Well, you know that. Well, you do know that I got zapped out. I wasn't just being quiet. I had to hang up and call back.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh, I did wonder why you seemed not to be there for a while. No, I
Well,
didn't know
wasn't.
that.
I wasn't.
I thought you were disapproving of what I was saying. I thought, geez.
No, I had no idea, and I
Oh, okay.
actually had to tune you in to see if you could even tell, and I gathered you weren't sure.
No,
So then
wasn't.
I hung up and I called back in, and here I am.
Here you are. Hey, the most amazing, and here again, me just trying to avoid so much of the horror in the news. Here's another interesting little thing I came upon. There was a pizza contest in, of all places, Italy. Actually, I had thought pizza was not really native. Pizza is native to Italy?
Sure it is.
Well, you hear these things like, things that you think are Chinese or Italian aren't really. They were sort of bastardized versions of something, the way we know them, whatever. But yes, true. So anyway, there was, I don't know, hundreds of pizza purveyors and chefs from all over the world, 2,000 competitors. It's the Pizza World Championships. And it was a 4-day tournament with judges monitoring everything from taste to kitchen organization. And the guy who won it is from Pittsburgh. A Pittsburgh pizza pie won. National! And none of us have ever even had it. But it goes on. They're going to make it for us starting tomorrow, May 1st. It'll be at the 4 locations of this pizzeria here, Caliente Pizza. I can't wait.
So you got a good pizzeria.
Well, the guy says he'll never be able to completely give us the pizza that he did in Italy, because in Italy he went out of the way to get absolute perfect Italian. His Parmesan came from Parma. The porchetta he uses comes from a small butcher in San Gimignano.
Yeah, right. And the olive oil is a special olive oil.
And he said even the water for the dough was Italian tap water. The rapini from a local, the Parmigiano Reggiano from the Greek. So he's trying, but he's trying to as much as possible. He says, I cannot find the true prosciutto that I got from the gentleman in Florence, but I'll do him justice and do one as close as humanly possible, says the chef, whose name is Eric von Hansen. Although, here's the cute thing. He had an Italian mom and an Italian grandmother, and it's based on the pizzas they made. And he calls the pizza Meemaw, which is what he called his grandmother and his mother, the Meemaw pizza. So I gotta try this out. It's sounds pretty incredible. And I have to tell you, his pizza is not round. I'm looking at a picture of it. His pizza is rectangular. So there you have it.
It's not just a slice that's rectangular. He made it rectangular.
No, the pizza is rectangular. It says that, his dough takes 4 days to make. He must be this is not a normal pizza in any way.
Well, it must be a sourdough crust.
Yes, I don't know. So there you have it.
Sounds good. I'll have to come. We'll have to go.
I'll have to come. We'll have to go. Right. And he's got these Caliente is the pizzeria. There's one in Bloomfield, guys. There's one in Aspinwall. And I forget where else. Mount Lebanon, I think, has one. So there's 4 or 5 of these locations, and they're going to, the Meemaw
It's
pizza.
funny, every once in a while, some pizza rises to the top. And so when I still lived in St. Louis, it was a pizzeria called Pi, P-I.
Mm-hmm.
And Obama had some when he was campaigning and went nuts and asked the guy to come to the White House and do a pizza party for him, which he did. But that elevated that guy to, from one pizza parlor to gazillions, and I have to say, it's delicious, a sort of unique pizza.
Well, that's like what the Obamas did for Pamela's here, a little diner known for its pancakes here. I mean, same thing. They ended up going to the White House too. But here, Susan, it says it's a 5-day fermented dough. There's no
sourdough is a fermented dough.
Yeah, and there's no red sauce. He uses a 5-year aged Parmesan. Mm-hmm. There's peppered bacon, rapini, shallots, garlic, onion, crushed plum tomatoes, and then the porchetta. And that's
he uses crushed plum tomatoes. That's going to make some sort of a red sauce by virtue of it being on top.
It's not like what we always expect.
No, it's not a cooked, right.
And he says it's topped off with a shaved black truffle pecorino romano.
Oh my God!
Jeez!
We will have to come, and we will have to go.
We got to try that. We got to try. Just telling you, we got to try that. Okay. So Vermont became the latest state to ditch Columbus Day. Yay! Vermont! That's interesting. I don't know. The state legislature passed the bill abolishing Columbus Day. And I'm not sure if the governor has signed it yet, but it's a Republican governor, ladies and gentlemen. And he said this: I see no reason why I wouldn't sign the bill. And Republican governors are signing these bills. I guess it depends if you have a big Italian, back to Italy, if you have a big Italian population in the state, it's more difficult to do. But there's a lot of states that have, not a lot, let me see. South Dakota has gotten rid of Columbus Day. Not a lot of Italians in South Dakota. Alaska has gotten rid of it. Hawaii's gotten rid of it. And Washington State refuses to recognize it as a legal holiday. And I love something that happened right near here. Sandusky, Ohio, this year decided locally that they would get rid of Columbus Day and instead take that day and make Election Day a holiday so that it was easier for people to vote. I love that.
What a great idea.
And that's just one city doing that. So it can be done. Let's hear it for Sandusky. Columbus Day is still a federal holiday, but states are saying fine and dandy, but we ain't doing it. Now, Vermont renamed the day. They're going to have the same holiday. It's just renamed Indigenous Peoples Day. So they turn it around, and they're instead going to be honoring the people who essentially got genocided when
he arrived, right?
Well, and in the days and months after. So that's just a little thing that we should keep our eye on. I don't see it happening here in a long time because we got a huge Italian population. But I definitely have seen a diminution of the festivities because people now have a sense of the import of what colonization did. I mean, what did we do? We almost wiped out genocided Native Americans, and then we brought in African slaves, kidnapped them from their homes and brought them in.
Yeah, it's
we have a
incredible.
lot of awful history in this country.
Well, it's just sort of interesting when, once you admit that our history was written by white men to the glory of white men and to the exclusion of just about everybody else's accomplishments and achievements, and with a very fine gloss over any imperfections. But some of what you find out is so damn interesting. Like, was it Lafayette? Not Lafayette. Who was the French guy that fought the American Revolution with us?
Lafayette.
They expose his skeleton, and it turns out he was. They didn't realize that it was his body because it seemed to be the skeleton of a woman.
No, I don't think that was Lafayette. Was it?
Who was that?
I forget, but I've heard that too. No. It was the Polish, the great Polish.
Pulaski?
Casimir Pulaski, who also.
It was Pulaski who
they think was actually a woman. But
not actually a woman. It was one of those among us that was sexually ambiguous in terms of body and organs.
But when they dug up where the general, the Pulaski, had been buried, they thought, well, this can't be it because this is the skeleton of a female. He had a female skeleton. So, and he was
Wasn't that it?
Yeah, that was fascinating. And I don't know, and I don't have any real information here because I read it quickly. So it was, but Pulaski, and I don't know if a lot of people know that guy, but if you talk to Polish Americans.
In the Midwest, you certainly know that,
right,
because we have towns named after him,
and he was
and in Chicago there are whole, big buildings,
Well, he was a hero of the Revolutionary War, and he came here, like Lafayette from France, to fight and
help us win.
And it was this fierce warrior, but it turns out was not quite a he. Fascinating. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting how.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting how complicated everything is, and
how complicated things have always been.
Right, but we just can't get
And
our
how
heads
people just
around
went
it.
on anyway.
Yeah, we still insist on being nothing more than either black or white, female or male, bad or good, and everything is so much more complicated. You know what?
And to quote Buttigieg, anybody that has a problem with it, their quarrel is with
their maker,
with their maker,
with his creator and their creator. Speaking of Buttigieg, and I've been wanting to get this in, did you see that there was an effort to set him up with false accusations of rape?
No.
Oh, wait. Let me find this. I swear I have it somewhere. Here it is. And you won't be surprised to hear where this comes from. An investigation has revealed evidence that a mysterious sexual assault allegation against Buttigieg was, in all likelihood, staged by far-right activists Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman. By the way,
right.
Jacob Wohl is the unbelievable, despicable Trump supporter who tried to recruit women to make rape allegations against Robert Mueller. That story barely made the news because in the cesspool we now live in, it doesn't. He invented a fake private intelligence company to try to make the scheme look legitimate. anyway, the guy they had recruited to be a recuser never showed up in regard to Mueller, but they did get some guy to, I don't know, they did something, and the guy that they sort of pulled into this later came out and said, I was never sexually, it's a Trump supporter. They tracked down this guy who these creeps said had been sexually assaulted by him, and he said, I in no way was ever, he says, I have since left and am working on a formal statement to give to everyone, including the Buttigieg family. This guy is freaked out. He said that Wohl and Berkman approached him a week ago using false names, pitching this scheme. And there are audio recordings that corroborate his story.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Beth writes, Pulaski is buried in one of the squares in Savannah, Georgia. It was there. Yeah, they dug him up there. Can't remember why they dug him up in the first place, though. Bree is writing from Abu Dhabi, and he wants to know what's going on in Venezuela. Well, right now, but the problem is I'm on the air. When I
I'll tell you what's going on.
Okay,
it looks like there's a revolution going on.
Well,
that the opposition has
some of the military
leader has asked the military to defect and join them. There are people in the streets.
But it's not clear at all whether there's enough. When I was coming in, I was listening to CNN, and they said that reporters were saying that they have seen military exchanging gunfire with military. So you got the military soldiers fighting other soldiers, and you don't know how something like this is going to turn out, but yeah. So that's what's happening. Who the hell knows? The dust ain't going to settle for some time. I'm very nervous about it because that military has pretty much stayed with Maduro, it seems to me. Little Tony wants.
Well, he couldn't have been doing what he was doing without their permission.
Who couldn't have been doing what without their permission? Maduro.
If he needs their implicit force to get away with what he's doing. That if he loses them, he's in trouble.
Yeah, but we don't know if he's really losing them or just losing some.
No, we don't.
That's what we just don't know at this point. Oh, caller. I am sorry. Is there caller still there? Jeez. All right, caller. We only have a few minutes because I forgot about you.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes. Hey, you're talking about that Buttigieg. I like him and everything. And if he was the nominee, I'd vote for him. But I think he's going to fade out for simple reason. He doesn't have the black vote. And then that thing that happened in, I don't know where he's from, the police department.
South Bend, yeah. Well, everybody's got some.
And another thing, it's a narrow-minded country. I don't think they'll vote for a gay man. They're just so narrow-minded. Just my neighbor, he's a Democrat. He doesn't like him because he's gay. He votes Democrat all the time. That's how people are. It's a shame they are, but they just can't get past that.
Yeah.
When he didn't like him. When he came up and his husband gave him a hug, I said, well, what's the difference between a wife giving the husband a hug? I said, no difference. But he didn't like that. So that's just how this country is. It's just narrow-minded people.
No, well, it's true. There's a lot of people who just
it makes them uncomfortable.
They can't help it.
Does.
They just sort of recoil when they see two men kissing or two women kissing because it's not what they. I mean, stop and think about it. They never have seen that before, and it goes against.
No.
I think if you give people enough time where something is not so
startling.
startling.
This might not be the time.
Yeah.
I understand your concern about that.
Yeah, I do
don't,
too.
and I really don't think you're wrong.
And
It doesn't
there's
stop me
people,
from liking him.
What I'm
there's
hoping
concern
is that,
about even will we elect a woman? There's a lot of the reason the 3 top runners right now, the latest poll in Iowa, is Biden, Sanders, Buttigieg is actually running third. 3 white men in this
well, you know what?
diverse party. And it
Biden-
shows we're scared. We want so desperately to get rid of Trump that we're afraid that a woman or a black or and I've read articles that there's a lot of concern among black women. They aren't sure that like a black woman could win. So they're not necessarily.
I have an idea. If Biden gets the nomination, which I don't know, I think he ought to pick Michelle Obama for his vice president.
She doesn't want
That
to
would
be
fit.
his vice president.
She doesn't want to go there. We can
I
pick any of
understand.
the other perfectly good women
He
as a
can
vice
take
president.
Kamala Harris
Well,
is what he can do. Or
I
Stacey
think that would
Abrams.
really.
Yeah.
He can take Stacey Abrams. She just announced that she's not running for the Senate,
Senate,
and I think
right.
there's a reason why.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think she's amazing.
I think there's a reason why,
Yeah.
and I think it's a Biden Abrams ticket, and that's what
Yeah, you're probably right.
that's what he's going to pull out.
All right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll
he's already
see.
he's apologized to Anita Hill for real the second time.
It's more than a year away before we're even. I don't know, when is the Milwaukee convention? Aren't they in like August usually? I mean, we're not even. Yeah. Let's
Too
just
early.
just relax.
Doesn't that seem weird? The Milwaukee convention.
Yeah. Let's relax. Well, that's an effort to get Wisconsin on board because I think there's a sense that Michigan and Pennsylvania will come back with not much of a problem to voting Democratic in the next national election. It's Wisconsin that's not clear. Wisconsin really is stuck in a 50-50 kind of situation. It's so sad. We'll see.
Well, we'll just see. We've got a lot of things in our favor. The dairy industry has been basically shut down by Trump.
Right, and his
right. So that all of rural Wisconsin is affected by that. So not just the farmers, but the little towns in which the farmers have no money to spend, and I mean that's exponential. And then there's the whole Foxconn thing, where the 50,000 jobs that Scott Walker sold the state to this guy, and now he's already backtracked so far that it's down to 3 jobs and a dog walker.
No, it's amazing that
there's a lot of stuff here that if people are paying attention, we could go for the Democrat president. That said, they just permanently turned the Wisconsin Supreme Court
into a right-wing
conservative.
Yeah, they did. So that was scary. So Wisconsin did just vote. They've got such a lopsided court there now. God almighty. So who knows? Anyway, blah blah blah. Hey,
we'll just wait and see. We just gotta wait and see.
I talked to the Dalai Lama's doctor the other day.
You did?
Yeah, I forgot that I had. I was at that this wonderful event at the August Wilson Center, and I saw him, and I recognized him because there'd been an article in the paper about him being here. And I walked right up to him and said, "Hi, aren't you the Dalai Lama's doctor?" And he admitted he was. And then I said, "I saw something you said, and it's just freaking me out. You said empathy is something that is not good for the person who's feeling it, that people who have a lot of empathy need to understand that they have to move toward compassion instead." And that poor guy was trying to explain to me this difference between empathy and compassion. He's a Buddhist monk himself. And I finally we gave up. but I sort of have a sense of what he was saying, because I was saying I want a bumper sticker that says empathy kills, because I feel it's killing me. And he was agreeing that empathy gets nobody anywhere, that taking on somebody else's pain doesn't help that person, and it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't lessen theirs. It just immobilizes
It doesn't help the
you.
empath, and it doesn't help the person the empath is feeling empathy for. And
Well, so you have to start with empathy, but then turn it into compassion to protect yourself.
Right. It's not like empathy is a bad thing, but you can't stay stuck in it because you're finished. Anyway, I wish I'd had another 7 years to spend talking to him. He seemed like such a he just, Buddhist to the core. Anyway, yeah, the Dalai Lama's doctor. Cool. Okay.
Well, my father-in-law was the Pope's valet's cardiologist.
Okay. We gotta
Well,
go.
listen, and it turns out that was very important, because it's my theory that that's how yours truly not only got a dispensation of cult, but a dispensation of form, and there had never, ever been a dispensation of form granted by the Archdiocese of Green Bay. And to quote the priest, it wasn't going to start with me.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but this obviously
No,
has to do
when I
with
went to
your
get
marriage.
dispensations to marry my husband.
Okay.
So that my in-laws would come.
Oh, God almighty. Okay, we're out of time. We're past time.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Bye, Suze.
See ya.
Yeah. I'll talk to you later. And bye, you guys. Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.